A little over 23 years ago, my father's sister, Virginia, passed away. On the day of her funeral, the minister told a story about something she'd done that nobody else in the family knew about. Apparently, back in the 60s, she was commissioned to paint a mural in the basement of her church of Jesus surrounded by children. And according to the minister, the church where she was commissioned to paint this mural burnt down in the 70s, and the entire church was destroyed, except for the wall where this mural was painted. So when they rebuilt the church, they ended up building the entire church around this mural. And the minister then invited those of us who had not seen what she had done to walk downstairs and take a look at her painting. Unfortunately for us, my father did not have an artistic bone in his body. So there aren't any murals I can invite you to take a look at. But there are two things that my father and his sister did share. They were constantly doing things for others, and neither one of them did it for recognition. As many people here can attest, Dad had this uncanny ability to make people feel welcome as they walked into our church. Thank you so much for coming here. I'm glad you can join us. And if you didn't know who you were, he would write down your name and number and he'd give you a call later on in the day. So, instead of inviting you to take a look at the mural downstairs in the basement of the church, I would invite each of you to stand up and greet the person next to you in his honor. And if you don't know their name, find out what it is and let them know how happy you are.
Lori Miller.
Perhaps one of the best decisions I ever made in my 50 years of living was to move in with my parents 2 years ago in November to help care for my father. Mom and I want to keep him out of a nursing home as long as humanly possible. And I thank God that he lived his life at home. But it became clear as if this was to happen, if he was to fall, that there was nothing my mom could do about it. So that's where I came in. My main job during this time was to walk Dad from one room to the next and to help him get ready for bed. And for anyone who's worked with someone with Alzheimer's, you know that by nighttime is probably one of the worst times of the day. So he cussed me out like nobody's business. And for anyone who knew my father, you also know that this is completely out of character. Growing up, the worst thing to ever come out of his mouth was, "Golly, Ned." Now, to this day, Bob, Beth, and I have no clue who Ned was. But we knew that anytime we heard his name in vain, that we were in trouble. Me especially. So Dad used words I never heard come out of his mouth before. And the entire time I was helping him put on his pajamas, or while I was slipping on his slippers. And yet, no matter how much he cussed me out while we were doing these things, by the time I tucked him into bed, I was ready to close the bedroom door and turn out the light, he'd say the same thing. "Thank you so much for helping me. I love you. I love you too, Dad. Good night." Anyone who knows my father knows that he loved to flirt. And some guys love golf, other guys will drive fancy cars. Dad just loved to flirt. It was one of his favorite pastimes, whether it was with Seema at Starbucks or Carolyn of New Hope. It was one thing that kept him going on a daily basis. About a year ago, Mom was worried that Dad may be coming down with pneumonia. So we took him to the emergency room just to make sure. And as fate would have it, he ended up having a female doctor. And Dad flirted with her the entire time. So I finally just turned to Mom and said, seriously, Mom, the day he stops flirting, that's the time we need to work. And fortunately for us, for Mom especially, after 59 years of marriage, one of my father's favorite people to flirt with has always been my mom. 2 days before he passed away, he had one of those magical, flirtatious, lucid moments with my mom. She leaned over and gave him a kiss at the dinner table, and as soon as she did, he perked right up and said, "Hey, you're a good kisser." And she said, well, thank you, so are you. He said, well, I know I am. That's my dad. 2 more thoughts before I turn things over to my brother. On October 13th, I'm going to be leading a team raising Dad in my father's honor to walk to end Alzheimer's. And I encourage each of you to pick up a donation form on the table on your way out, or to talk with me after the service about joining my team, so we can help raise money needed to help put an end to this horrible disease in his honor, so his life will not be lived in vain. And finally, as members of our congregation have pointed out to me, Dad didn't die. He was promoted to head usher up in heaven. So when our time comes to walk through the pearly gates, he will be the first one to greet us and say, "Thank you so much for coming. I'm glad, so glad that you're here."